You've spent years waiting for someone to choose you. Years hoping that maybe one day, someone will finally see you, appreciate you, and give you the love you've always been searching for. You've measured your worth by the way others treat you, by their approval, their validation, their attention. And every time they didn't give you what you needed, it felt like proof that you weren't enough. But here's the truth they never taught you. You don't need their permission to feel worthy. You don't need their approval to believe you're valuable. You've been waiting for someone else to pour love into you, when all along, that love was supposed to start with you. Self-love isn't selfish. It isn't arrogance. It's survival. It's choosing to stop begging for crumbs of affection from people who can't see your value, and deciding instead to feed yourself with the respect, kindness, and care you've been denying yourself. Because if you don't choose you, you'll spend your whole life chasing people who will never truly choose you either. Think about it. How many times have you bent yourself out of shape to please someone? How many times have you ignored your own needs just to keep someone else comfortable? How many times have you stayed quiet when you wanted to speak, said yes when you wanted to say no, and smiled when you wanted to scream, just because you were afraid of losing their approval? The most dangerous thing you can do is build your identity around what other people think of you. Because here's the problem. People's opinions change. They'll love you one day and judge you the next. They'll admire you until you do something they don't understand. And if your self-worth is tied to their shifting approval, you'll never feel secure. Loving yourself means becoming your own safe place. It means deciding that your value isn't up for debate. It means you can walk into a room and not care if anyone claps, because you're already proud of yourself. But I get it, it's not easy. We live in a world that trains us to look outside ourselves for validation. Social media makes it worse. Every like, every comment, every follower becomes another vote on whether you're enough. You scroll and compare, measuring your life against someone else's highlight reel, forgetting that their happiness isn't proof that you're failing. You've been taught to chase someone else's love like it's oxygen. But what if the oxygen tank is already inside you? What if the thing you've been searching for, the security, the joy, the confidence, was never meant to come from them? The people who truly love themselves don't walk around thinking they're perfect. They walk around knowing they're worthy, even when they're imperfect. They don't beat themselves up over mistakes. They learn from them. They don't shrink themselves to fit someone else's comfort zone. They grow beyond it. And the irony is, when you finally learn to love yourself, the right people are drawn to you. Not because you're trying to impress them, but because self-love is magnetic. People can feel it when you've stopped begging for validation and started giving it to yourself. So here's the challenge. Before you give your heart to anyone else, give it to yourself first. Before you fight for someone else to stay, fight for your own peace. Before you invest your energy into proving you're enough for them, prove to yourself that you're already enough for you. One day, you'll look back at the version of you who settled for less, who stayed in rooms where love was conditional, who doubted their own worth, and you'll realize that version of you was already strong. They just didn't know it yet. The real glow-up isn't when you change your looks, your status, or your income. It's when you realize that you don't need anyone else's stamp of approval to feel valuable. That's when you stop chasing love, and love starts chasing you. Because the moment you start loving yourself more than anyone else, you stop living like a guest in your own life and start living like the owner of it. And once that happens, you'll never settle for less than what you deserve again. They told you that love was about sacrifice. That being a good person meant putting everyone else first. And maybe you believed them, because that's what you saw growing up. Maybe you watched people in your family stretch themselves thin for others, thinking that was the only way to be loved. So you learned to give, and give some more. You gave your time, your energy, your patience, your heart, until there was nothing left for you. And still, it never felt like enough. You thought that if you gave more, people would love you more. But here's the painful truth. Some people will take everything you offer and still ask for more. Not because they need it, but because they've learned they can. Self-love begins when you stop seeing your worth as a transaction. When you stop believing that love has to be earned through exhaustion, people-pleasing, or constant sacrifice. You are not a vending machine that dispenses kindness in exchange for affection. You are not a never-ending well of energy for people who don't refill your cup. And the day you realize this, you'll feel a shift. You'll start noticing the ways you've been betraying yourself by saying yes when you meant no, by letting people talk to you in ways you would never accept from a stranger, by staying in situations that chip away at your confidence little by little. Self-betrayal is the opposite of self-love. And every time you betray yourself to keep someone else happy, you teach your own soul that their needs matter more than yours. But imagine, for a second, what it would feel like to have your own back, no matter what. To know that if everyone else turned away, you would still stand in the mirror and see someone worth fighting for. That's what self-love does. It builds a kind of unshakable trust between you and yourself. And when that trust is there, you stop tolerating things that break you down. You begin to speak up, not because you want to argue, but because you've learned your voice matters. You start setting boundaries, not to push people away, but to protect the peace you worked so hard to find. You start choosing environments that feel like sunlight, not like storms. And yes, some people won't like the new you. They'll call you selfish. They'll say you've changed. But here's the thing. They were only comfortable when you put yourself last. Of course, they won't cheer for the version of you that refuses to be used. But that's okay, because you didn't come here to be everyone's favorite. You came here to live a life that feels good when you're alone with your own thoughts. The truth is, self-love will cost you certain relationships. But the relationships you lose will be the ones that were built on you not loving yourself enough. The people who truly care will celebrate your growth. The ones who only cared about what you gave them will fade away. And that's not a loss, it's a blessing. Because the emptiness they leave behind will be the space you fill with people who see your worth without you having to prove it. Somewhere along the way, you'll realize that loving yourself isn't about becoming untouchable. It's about becoming unshakable. It's about knowing that no matter who leaves, no matter what changes, you are still whole. And when you can stand in that truth, when you can finally say, I am enough as I am, you'll wonder why you ever begged anyone else to believe it for you. Some nights, you'll still feel the old pull, the urge to reach out for validation, to hear someone tell you that you matter. It's a habit, really. We've been conditioned to measure our worth by how others respond to us. But here's what they don't tell you. When you learn to love yourself, you don't stop wanting connection. You just stop needing it to feel complete. Think about it. How many times have you scrolled through social media, watching someone else's life and wondering if you measure up? How many times have you edited yourself, your words, your personality, your dreams, just to fit into someone else's comfort zone? We all do it, until we realize the cost. The cost is our authenticity. The cost is that quiet voice inside of us saying, this isn't who I really am. Self-love means you no longer silence that voice. You start listening. You start honoring it. You start building a life that reflects it. You stop chasing people who don't see you. You stop forcing yourself into rooms where you don't feel welcome. And instead, you begin creating your own table, your own circle, your own place where you belong. But here's the hardest part. It's not always glamorous. Sometimes loving yourself means spending Friday night alone instead of in a crowd that makes you feel small. Sometimes it means saying no to a relationship that feels exciting but drains you emotionally. Sometimes it means walking away from people you love deeply because they keep wounding you in ways they refuse to acknowledge. And that's when doubt will creep in. You'll ask yourself, am I doing the right thing? Or am I just pushing people away? But then you'll remember, self-love isn't about walls. It's about doors. You're not closing yourself off from the world. You're choosing which doors to open, which people to invite into your energy, which environments get the honor of holding your presence. You start to notice that your energy is valuable, that every yes you give to someone else is a no to yourself if it's not aligned with your peace. And slowly, the guilt fades. The constant apologizing stops. You begin to feel lighter, because you realize you are not responsible for how others react to your boundaries. You are only responsible for honoring yourself. And the beautiful thing? When you live from that place, when you're rooted in your own worth, you start attracting people who value you without conditions. You draw in friendships that feel easy, love that feels safe, opportunities that feel aligned. It's like life shifts to match the way you see yourself. But you can't fake it. You can't just say, I love myself, and hope the world plays along. You have to prove it. In the choices you make, in the way you talk to yourself, in the way you refuse to shrink for anyone. And in those quiet moments, when no one is watching, you'll start to see it. You'll see the strength you've built, the confidence you've earned, the peace you've created. And you'll know, you've finally become the kind of person you can count on. There comes a moment when you stop seeing self-love as something you should do and start seeing it as something you can't live without. It's the day you look in the mirror and don't just see a reflection. You see a person you've fought to protect. You see the late nights you stayed up crying, but still got up in the morning. You see the countless moments you wanted to give up, but didn't. You see the strength that no one applauded, but you carried anyway. That's when you realize you are the love of your life. Not in a way that makes you arrogant, not in a way that shuts others out, but in a way that says, I will never abandon myself again. Because the truth is, so much of our pain comes from the times we've betrayed ourselves. Every yes when we wanted to say no. Every relationship we stayed in long after it stopped being healthy. Every time we let someone talk to us in a way we would never allow if we truly believed in our worth. Loving yourself means that betrayal stops here. It means you stand up for yourself even when your voice shakes. It means you give yourself the compassion you've been giving away to everyone else. It's not selfish, it's sacred. The more you choose yourself, the more you realize how many choices you made before out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of being judged, fear of being misunderstood. But here's the secret. The fear never fully disappears. You just get stronger than it. You start making decisions based on what's right for you, even if it scares you. And then something powerful happens. Life starts to open up. You stop settling for almost love, almost respect, almost opportunities. You realize that almost is just a slow form of self-abandonment. You want the real thing. And yes, there will be people who don't like this new version of you. They will call you different, difficult, even selfish. But you'll learn that those words often come from people who benefited from you not loving yourself enough. So you keep going. You keep showing up for yourself in the little ways. Getting enough rest, eating to fuel your body, spending time with people who lift you up instead of drain you, speaking to yourself like you would to someone you love deeply. Because every time you do, you reinforce a truth that becomes unshakable. I am enough as I am. And when you reach that place, you stop running. You stop chasing approval. You stop believing you're only worthy when you're achieving or pleasing. Instead, you start living in a quiet kind of power, the kind that can't be taken away because it comes from within. And that, right there, is when everything begins to change. One day, you'll look back on this journey and realize that loving yourself was the turning point. Not when you got the job, not when you found the relationship, not when the world finally gave you the recognition you wanted, but when you decided you were worth it before anyone else said so. Because here's the truth. When you love yourself deeply, you stop begging for scraps of love from people who were never willing to give you the feast you deserve. You start building a life that reflects your worth instead of one that constantly questions it. Think about it. How many opportunities have you missed because you doubted yourself? How many dreams have you delayed because you thought you weren't ready? How many relationships have you stayed in because you were afraid of being alone? Loving yourself doesn't erase the challenges, but it gives you the courage to face them without losing yourself in the process. It becomes your anchor when the storms hit, your compass when the path is unclear. And I want you to hear this. No matter where you are right now, no matter how many mistakes you've made, no matter how long you've neglected your own needs, it's not too late. You can choose yourself today. You can love yourself today. It starts small. It starts with one decision. Maybe it's turning off your phone to rest instead of pushing through exhaustion. Maybe it's saying no to someone who always takes but never gives. Maybe it's simply looking in the mirror and saying, I'm proud of you. And then you do it again tomorrow. And the day after that. Until self-love is no longer a practice you remember to do. It's the air you breathe. So here's my challenge to you. Starting right now, commit to 30 days of choosing yourself. For the next 30 days, make every decision through the filter of, is this loving toward me? Watch how your relationships change. Watch how your confidence grows. Watch how life begins to open in ways you never imagined. Because when you love yourself more than anyone else, you stop waiting for permission to live, and you start giving yourself the freedom you've been searching for all along. This is your moment. This is your time. No one is coming to save you. No one else can give you the love you've been craving more than you can give it to yourself. So choose yourself. Fight for yourself. Love yourself. And when the world asks you how you became so unstoppable, you'll be able to smile and say, I stopped waiting for someone else to love me. I started doing it myself.